not only is it a great day because we're officially approaching Rebel Moon Extended Cut version 1, the day we've all waited for, but we've got rid of the dead weight. What happened was Kaylee found out that Rebel Moon Extended Cut was coming out and she unalived herself. Not really, but more on Kaylee later. But instead, we've got Christian is here. Hello, Christian.
Hello, happy to be here and ready to use Michael Richards' favorite word a lot of times.
Yeah, Christian, of course, going by his more well-known avatar, Heather Jenblatt. I love that nickname. Great story behind
I'm so glad. I'm so glad that you told me that's there. That's awesome.
Yeah.
There I am. Well, look, obviously there's only one person in this house that makes money, so it's only slightly embarrassing.
Yeah, and despite appearances of her being naked and the way she's dressed, like my real name's Adam, she's dressed like Eve. Probably the most powerful hit-on, sleazed-on woman in the whole Dabbleverse. Lemmy, how are you doing today?
I'm doing really good. It's very hot here, but I'm doing okay.
Certainly is. Right, Christian?
I believe she did point between her legs when she said that, Husey. So yeah.
Jesus. Yeah, but from behind, which made it even weirder.
Yeah.
Hey.
Or hotter, however you look at it.
Oh, believe me, Ray DeVito looks at it that way all the time. No matter what he draws, he always includes the anus. That's just what he does. Kaylee's not here today because, well, A, she's in work, but also if you go to her YouTube channel, which I refuse to plug, she's just released her own a specific Unfrosted review with Lady K and his nap mom or whatever that they call her.
His mom wife, the delightful Jenny Jingles, and some other hack is on that episode with her. Kaylee, Jenny Jingles, and I don't know who else.
Well, what we've kindly done today is that Lemmy's taking her kids out of school for this recording. Christian has locked his wife in the bathroom, told her to wait because we're going deep. We're going through every single one of the films that Jerry Seinfeld has ever directed in history. It's a super, super long list. We might as well start with Unfrosted. Christian, what did you think of Unfrosted?
Well, Unfrosted is one of those movies that when you hear it's coming out, and Jerry did just an unbelievable amount of press. He was on every show except for John Melendez's, because he realized that there wasn't enough reach there. But he was promoting it so much, so it got to a point I'm like, all right, I'll watch this fucking movie. You saw who the cast was, and don't hate the fact, Husey, that even though I knew Amy Schumer was in it, I watched it anyway. Okay. I was going to watch it in spite of her. But she wasn't even the one who took me. I could not believe what had happened to Jim Gaffigan. I don't know how well known he is in Ireland, but this guy looked like he's the guy who ate Jim Gaffigan. So it was really jarring to see him. And you see everybody who's in this. You see the list. You're like, well, how bad could it be? And then you quickly learn, oh, wow, way worse than anyone ever would have imagined.
Jim Gaffigan, of course, used to have a sitcom, and one of the actors on that sitcom, Ray I Fuck Kids DeVito, which he was told to drop that name from his acting reel because it probably wouldn't get him a lot of work. And it turns out it didn't, Lemmy. Who would have ever thought of that? Lemmy.
Well, that's when he officially became Ray I Kill Hookers Along I-80 DeVito.
Yeah. If I was his athlete name. Only athletic part of Ray DeVito's body is his feet. What a roast. More inventive comedy like that coming soon. Lemmy, what was your opinion of Unfrosted?
I didn't know how promoted this movie was. I'm not like a huge fan of Jerry Seinfeld. I think I've caught like maybe 10 episodes of Seinfeld in my whole entire life. And Husey told me about it. So I knew nothing of this movie. I didn't even know Amy Schumer was in this movie.
It's about food, Lemmy.
Yeah. It's real. I thought it was great. I loved this movie. I'm not going to lie. I very much. I'll watch it again. I liked it so much.
Let me blink twice if Jerry Seinfeld's in the house and he's threatened you and your loved ones. Because that's the only explanation that would make sense right now.
I like silly, dumb little movies like that. I really do.
Is,
it had everything.
It is definitely
It
a
had
silly,
everything.
dumb movie. Yeah.
Lemmy, as inappropriate as this may sound, can you actually show proof that you're not actually naked? There you go. That's it. See, Christian, it's that easy.
Yeah, Husey said before we started, it'll take me 4 minutes to get her to lift up the milkers, and I guess that counts.
Yeah.
It totally counts.
And now we move into Operation Fartbox. I gotta be honest about this film, and I have to read a message that Kaylee sent me. May she rest in peace. Fuck Jerry for creating this drivel, which I think means that, much like me, she didn't hate it. I thought that, but I do think that it kind of exposed once again that Netflix is not about making films. It's about paying celebrities to be on their service. And when you hear that this was not a cheap film, this cost like tens of millions of dollars. I'm pretty sure a lot of that went to Jerry Seinfeld. I'm pretty sure that gym addicts like Amy Schumer and Melissa McCarthy only went to, get the training for their big fat legs. And yeah, I just think that this was a case of people being like, I'm not really at the peak of my career anymore. I know streaming exists. The company that made Rebel Moon 1 and 2, they know how to make good films. I'll go get paid to be in the Jerry Seinfeld film. That being said, I like that it was sort of surreal and stupid, and the fact that it wasn't actually about the making of the Pop-Tart, that old story. It just so happened that it was, shall we say, loosely inspired. But I have to say that Jerry Seinfeld, I never thought that he was autistic before, but now I think he's got the worst case of it ever. What's the difference between his performance in this and what's the guy in Rain Man, Dustin Hoffman?
That at least he took a 17-year-old to the prom, whereas I think Dustin just got a little handsy.
Yeah, that's what. How did Jerry Seinfeld? He's completely skated that by. He was in his late 30s when he was in Seinfeld. He was dating a 17-year-old. And let's not be vulgar here. She had giant tits before you start talking about her eyes, Christian, like the pervert that you are.
That's true.
Yeah, I just thought that it is kind of crazy that the thing that's got him controversy is that he speaks out against cancel culture and made some sort of comment about the Israel-Palestine thing. And I gotta be honest, I still don't know what the fuck's going on over there. I'm completely confused, and I want to keep it that way.
Yeah,
Lemmy?
Same. I don't care what's going on. I don't want to know what's going on. I don't want to have an opinion because it seems like a really divisive opinion, and I'm not trying to be in all that.
Yeah, well, as we once on your show spoke about Pulp Fiction, I do subscribe to John Travolta's character, and very often it's like, man, I don't even have an opinion. It's easier to not have an opinion. But back to, I believe her name was Shoshana Lowenstein, the high school girl. What you're going to have to understand about America is 17 is close enough. 16 can be a problem. 15 is definitely trouble, but 17 we consider close enough. At least I believe that's what Lemmy told me.
But and to go back to the Israel-Palestine thing, to quote Seinfeld, I choose not to learn. See? Yeah, but I didn't hate this one, but I remember when it got to the end credits, and can you imagine writing the script and going through all the restrictions and the whatever you need to get this thing made in this day and age, and Jerry Seinfeld says, "I've got a great idea. I'll dance in the end credits, but in my real clothes." And you think, but why couldn't you at least be in your costume from the film because it kind of made it seem like it wasn't real. Am I right or what, Lemmy?
You're right.
See, I just thought that those types of, especially there's this really great film called The Game Plan starring The Rock. It's so good and it won the Oscar. But at the end of the film, the end credits is a montage of them throughout the production singing "Burning Love" by Elvis Presley, who was a singer back in the 90s. And you just think this is so stupid and embarrassing and G word, right? And you just think that like, what are you doing? Who edit this stuff out? Amy Schumer has fat legs, right, Christian?
Yeah, but you know that that's my thing, so I'm not complaining about it. I feel like Something About Mary was the first movie that did that with the credits where they were singing a song, and then you had a lot of movies that followed up. Obviously, I don't want to take anything away from Dwayne Johnson and his career, but there was that stretch in the 90s where you almost feel like movies went back into production just so that they could film a credit sequence. Like the film Lost and Found, where Artie Lang replaced Chris Farley. So it's an Artie Lang David Spade vehicle. Who didn't want that?
Yeah. If there's one thing I say about David Spade films, it's that he's an old. But I have to say that of all the films Jerry Seinfeld has done, Unfrosted is by far his best. But overall, what's your stance on Jerry Seinfeld's career, considering of how big the show used to be to comedians in cars getting coffee, which I'm so grateful for because it exposed so many comedians for being unfunny. Even Howard Stern wasn't funny face to face being interviewed. And Aziz Ansari bombed, not for that reason. I'm just saying comedically wise, he bombed. Seth Rogen wasn't funny, fat piece of shit. And speaking of which, Amy Schumer was on it and was unfunny and wore baggier clothes than Kramer. Know any good Michael Richards jokes, Christian?
Yeah, I know all of them. And as soon as you set up a Patreon, I'll tell a few of them.
Excellent. Yeah, but overall, Christian, what would be your stance on Jerry Seinfeld?
Well, it's interesting that you mention Howard, because Howard Stern is very good in the confines of his studio. And I do think his movie was fun. But in general, when you start to take him out of that and he's not in his comfort zone, it loses something. And I think Jerry is still at least a reasonably competent stand-up and has been a great stand-up in his career, and he's there by the reputation. So I think he's great at that. And as I was messaging you about this when this first came up, I think that the sitcom is like an all-time in that genre. And even if you want to give a lot of the credit to Larry David, at least Jerry was smart enough to know that Larry David was the person he should collaborate with on this. But, Jerry is never a very good actor on the show. It's like when he's in the living room and he's doing like, what is this? Elaine, what are you talking? All that stuff's fine. But then when he's like out on a date with a girl and stuff, it's always like, it always betrays that he's not a particularly strong actor. But when he's playing Jerry, he's fine. So, I mean, I do think that he's great if he stays in his own lane. I think he is still a great stand-up. And I think Seinfeld, for the most part, holds up. And I don't rewatch old shows, but I feel like it would still make me laugh if I were to watch it. But Unfrosted was way outside of his comfort zone.
And Lemmy, not to try to get you in the nude, but let's be honest. What is you were never much of a Jerry Seinfeld fan before, so what would your stance be on him overall at the minute?
Well, I've always grown up with him as a household name. Of course, everybody knew who Jerry Seinfeld was, but he always struck me as like a late night talk show host that never got to be a late night talk show host, so he stuck to like bad acting and comedy. But he got successful at it, so I can't really knock him for the career he's had. And he is, like I said, a household name, so that's how he comes off to me personally.
Yeah.
But I loved Unfrosted. I thought Unfrosted was freaking great, and I would if he's gonna direct more movies like that or write more movies like that, I'll watch them. They're silly. I love that shit.
Do you think perhaps a spin-off film with Snap, Crackle, and Pop would be something that might work for him?
No, I don't think you should
Oh.
beat a dead horse like that. I think you should
Okay.
let a standalone silly movie be its own
Whoa.
thing and let it just be its own thing.
Lemmy, you just betrayed why you don't work in Hollywood. You don't want to beat a dead
Fair.
horse.
Mm.
Yeah, so
Yeah, I'm not into it.
So just as we're wrapping up this extensively long episode, Christian, what plugs do you have for the boys and girls that Jerry Seinfeld will be hitting on? Link down below.
yes, link down below. And of course, Jerry also directed a special for Colin Quinn for HBO, which was it was the first of his History of the World sort of style presentations. So he knows how to point a camera at a funny comedian and get that to work. But I'm glad you didn't bring up B Movie because I sure as hell never saw B Movie. So I'm glad
I
we're not.
love
And
B Movie.
I don't think he
Shut your
directed
mouth.
it. He just talked in it, right? Did he direct it? Do you think?
I have no idea. It was
Yeah.
silly. It was kind of on the same silliness scale as Unfrosted. It had like
Yeah.
the same kind of punny jokes. So
Sure.
if he didn't, then he had a big hand in the overall.
Right, that's fair.
But do you think he wrote he came up with the idea for B Movie or come up with the idea for a title and then like which came first?
No, I'm pretty sure it was in development for a while, and his buddy Michael Richards wanted to call it N Movie, and he's like, we should probably just make it B Movie.
Yeah, I heard he also pitched a.
Well, that's the sequel that never went into production, and it's also the working title for Rebel Moon 3.
Oh, lovely. Lemmy, what plugs do you have?
Oh, wait, I didn't plug anything. I just
yeah.
talked about Jerry some more. So Who Are These Broadcasters is Tuesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific on the Who Are These Podcasts network. You can find it on the YouTube channel, but you can also find it as an audio podcast. I have my own podcast, the BladtCast, BladtCast, where this week we're going to tackle woke Star Wars in terms of the Acolyte. I'll be joined by the great Eric Nagel, E-Rock himself, and some other friends. So find that at BladtCast, BladtCast.
Oh, I didn't know E-Rock knew how to reply to messages.
No, only if you have an envelope of photos of him does he reply to your messages. So I'll share some of my photos with you.
Speaking of photos, Lemmy, what plugs do you have for the boys and girls?
Twitch.tv/Little Lemmy for a superior morning show. 0 Little Lemmy 0 on Twitter. Follow me on Instagram and BYB Podcast on YouTube at BYB_pod.
There you go. This episode's gone way long. I'm gonna have to spend the whole night editing it down. I'll definitely have to cut out a lot of those N-bombs. I don't know why Christian had to show us that part of his body, but like, see a fucking doctor, please. Yeah. But thank you for listening, and thank you, Jerry Seinfeld, for not sucking. And I think Keely should die for not being here, but maybe that's just me. But
that might be just you. Yeah.
I'll just die. But she will be on the next one, where we should trick her into what. Here's what we should do. We should do a short one the next time, but tell her that we're doing a Michael Bay episode, so that she has to watch every single Michael Bay film and then go, "Oh, I meant Orson Welles."